Hi, college English students. This is the first in a series of videos that might give you hints that will be helpful as you do the senior project. I'm constantly asked questions that relate to what is contained in the senior project, how should I do the slides, and a lot of other questions. But I would say that most often the questions are about slides. So this video is going to give you tips about slides. The first tip I'm giving you, and it's probably the most important one in the whole video, is please don't make your script the words on your slide. What that means is don't just read the slide. It is so boring and it even induces sleep, and you don't want me to go to sleep, and you don't want any audience to go to sleep. And the other thing is, after all, I can say this for myself, and I would say it's true of every audience member in any audience that you talk about, that they can read. So why read them the words on the slide as they appear on the slide? It just doesn't make any sense. If they want to read the slides, you can just stand there. But in this case, you don't want to do that. What can you do to make sure you just don't read the slides? Create notes. Create notes that will help you to remember things that you want to say about what's on the slide, to remember facts that you don't include on the slide, and these facts would obviously be related, and to include quotes that are not on the slide. Very often, saying it in addition to having your slides up there is really a better way to get across a more complicated idea, to elaborate on it, and to include facts that are not in the slide. You don't have to include every fact in the slide. Instead, you can leave out the fact and say it. Quotations work really well this way because a lot of the time the quotation is too long. Why not just say, according to whatever the source is, and then say the quote? It'll really be more effective. And the real purpose of the slides is to allow the audience to have this guide for what you're saying. Don't let clip art or other illustrations or photos distract from the words on the slide, as is the case on this slide. First of all, these are irrelevant for the most part. I guess I could find a connection. But bottom line is, you don't want the eye of the viewer to go to the clip art and dwell on it. It's bad enough if your slide is wordy and they're looking at the words and that's what they're concentrating on. That's why I suggest abbreviated, bullet bound statements. But the bottom line is, clip art can take away from your project. Use links when you want to show a video or import the video. Bottom line is that I've seen 3 senior projects so far. 2 of them included clips, but there was no pause. There was presentation, then the person clicked on the link, and the presentation went to the video. It's really more efficient and it speeds things up and it looks more professional. The one question I'm asked most often is, how many slides should I have? The answer to that, and I've given it to some of you, is as many as you need. Bottom line is, I saw 3 presentations. I didn't count the slides, but I am positive that they didn't have an equal number of slides. Slides are there to inform the audience of very basic skeletal facts and comments that you want to make. Bottom line is, I can't tell you how many of those you need to put forth your senior project. So obviously, you're going to use common sense in this regard. Remember, if the slide is too busy, and I've said this in class, then create 2 or 3 more slides out of that slide. Certainly, if you have a long quote, I still wouldn't suggest you include it, but to cram it in with very small fonts on a single slide is just really pointless. So you don't want to do that. If it gets to the point where you have too many facts on a slide. Maybe you have a chart on the slide. Why not give the chart a separate slide? It's really a better idea. The arrangement of the slides is really up to you. Most of the time, if not all of the time, the arrangement is fine in terms of what I see. And the reason I can say it's fine is if I can learn from it, follow it, then what slide you put second or fifth is really not particularly relevant. You want to teach the audience, the viewer. And what you can do, and a lot of people do this, is say, what would I want to hear next? How can I explain this so there's certain arrangement, a certain order to what you do? And remember, your last slide should invoke some kind of idea that you are ending. A lot of people put up a slide as the last one that says, any questions? And that, of course, is fine. Now, this is something that's very important. You're going to give credit to the sources when you have something that A is not common knowledge and B could be something that's a quote. Obviously, at that point, you really should give credit, and I'm going to ask you to do so. And these are examples of ALA, which you can certainly use in your project. Be consistent throughout. We'll go over that. But if you notice, that should have been at the bottom of a slide where I took the information from some kind of work by Schwartz, and here I give the date too. Notice if you have the page according to ALA, you should put that on there too. But at the bottom of every slide, I would think that you would have some kind of citation, just as you would in a paper. The bibliography, which is the last slide of the presentation, I don't see where else you're going to put it. It should be the last slide. It should be done in correct format. Now, I have decided that you can use ALA, but I also have decided that you can use MLA. But the one thing I want you to keep in mind is if your parenthetical citations are MLA, then your bibliography should be MLA also. If your citations are ALA, then your bibliography should be ALA also. Remember, on the bibliography, you do not number. You put it in alphabetical order according to the first word, and on the top of your bibliography, it should have the word bibliography. Now, one of the things you really have to keep in mind, because it's a requirement of the project, is that you're going to need to send me a copy of the bibliography. You really should do it the same day. I'll accept it up to the next day. But since you've shown it during the project, have it printed out. You might even use it as your notes or in your notes. But bottom line is, even if there's a slide, I need a hard copy. So please send one to me. Other questions about the slides can be answered through email, obviously during my office hours, which are now 1 to 2. And most importantly, even though this is sort of a side comment, please practice, 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 because that's the key to having a great presentation. Also, last of all, perhaps, proofread all. Oh no, it says slides. I didn't proofread. Oh my God, it should have said slides. Don't embarrass yourself. It's not a good idea. All you have to do is carefully reread the slides. Make sure that there's no spelling mistakes or mistakes like I put purposely, of course, on this slide because it is an English class. So let's face it, you really ought to be knowledgeable about the kinds of things that make up good writing. So that's it for this presentation and this video. I hope you'll come back very soon to see the second in the series.